Hi, this is Christian Cantrell for Watch Report, and today I'm going to review the Casio G-Shock MRG-7600D. The MRG line is Casio's premium line of G-Shocks, and believe it or not, they go for between $1,500 and $3,000. This is the quote-unquote cheap model, but you know, at $1,500, it's still a very expensive watch and a very, very expensive G-Shock. So what is it that makes this line of watches so expensive? First of all, it's the use of high-end materials. So we'll start with the crystal. This is a synthetic sapphire crystal. Synthetic sapphire is essentially scratch-proof. Nothing is scratch-proof, but it's as scratch-proof as watches get. So you never have to worry about banging the crystal into something and leaving a big gash in it. It's going to stay nice and smooth looking for the life of the watch. It's also treated with an anti-glare coating. Now I'm under studio lights here, so I can induce a pretty wicked glare there if I want to. But under normal circumstances, the anti-glare coating works really nicely. This watch also has a titanium case and a solid titanium bracelet. Casio doesn't use a huge amount of titanium, primarily because although titanium is a very light and a very strong metal, it paradoxically is also somewhat soft and is easily scratched, which is sort of inconsistent with the reputation of G-Shocks. You don't want to have a watch that everybody thinks is super tough, looking all scratched up all the time. So they don't use a huge amount of titanium. But they can get away with it with the MRG line because of a process called DLC, or diamond-like carbon coating, which is a treatment applied to the titanium, which makes it very hard and very, very scratch resistant, much like the crystal of the watch. So the clasp here you can see is not DLC treated. And let me just focus in here. You can see I have a pretty decent scratch above the MRG logo, but the rest of the bracelet and the case is treated with DLC. And is therefore pretty much entirely free of scratches and looks pretty much brand new. The other thing that I really like about this line of watches is the locking mechanism on the clasp. So you can see it has this little switch here, and when I switch it to locked, it will disable the push button mechanism, or sort of interfere with the push button mechanism, which means that the clasp cannot be opened and the watch can't be removed from your wrist. So let me go ahead and put it on here and lock it, and you can see that the watch is now not coming off, which is a really nice feature. And a lot of watches have locking clasps, but this is the only watch I've seen with this particular implementation, which I really like. I think it's a great implementation. It's nice and subtle. It's very effective. It's easy to activate and deactivate. I really like it. So while the watch is on my wrist, though, I'll just give you a second to see how it looks when you're actually wearing it. The MRG line actually has a slightly lower profile than other G-Shocks, which is nice. I mean, it's not exactly a subtle watch, and I wouldn't call it, stealthy necessarily, but it is a little smaller than other G-Shocks, slightly more subtle, and I think fairly reasonable looking, especially with the trend of much bigger watches. Okay, so what other more standard features does this watch have? And I say standard because these are features that can be found on other G-Shocks, not just the MRG line, but are also excellent features nonetheless. Let's see, 6-band atomic time calibration, which means that the watch calibrates via radio signals transmitted from atomic clocks in Japan, the US, China, UK, and Germany. It's solar powered, so you never have to worry about charging the battery. It has automatic hand correction, which is a feature I really like. So on analog watches, the hour-minute hands can sometimes get knocked out of alignment by a sharp shock, or also by exposure to magnetism. The module in this watch will actually check the position of both the hour and minute hands every hour, and if it finds that they're misaligned, it will automatically correct them, which is really cool. It has an LED backlight here, which I'm not going to bother to activate because under these bright studio lights you'll never see it, but it's a really nice, pleasant amber LED here at the 6 o'clock position, which does a really good job of illuminating the entire dial. It also has an auto illumination feature, which you activate by holding down this button here, the illumination button, for several seconds. And when auto illumination is enabled, then when the watch is on your wrist and you tilt the watch towards you at about 40 degrees, the dial will automatically illuminate, so you can essentially illuminate your watch one-handed. Now it's a really intelligent implementation because since the dial of the watch is a solar cell for charging the capacitor, it can double as a light sensor, and so the auto illumination feature will only activate if there's not enough ambient light for you to actually see the dial unaided, or in other words, it only works in the dark, is a simple way of putting it. The watch has both dual time and world time modes, which are slightly different. The dual time mode is the ability to set a second time zone in addition to the watch's primary time zone. And what that enables you to do is display the secondary time zone in the LCD at the bottom here, so you can keep track of two time zones at once, which is really nice. Now there's also a world time mode, which I'll access here. You can see I have it set to LAX. I travel to California frequently, so I can just jump into world time mode. I can see what the time is in California. And if I hit these two buttons up here simultaneously, it'll actually swap the watch's default time zone, which is New York City, out for the secondary time zone, which is LAX, which is configured in the world time mode here. So it makes it very easy to swap between two time zones if you do a lot of traveling between two different time zones, which I do, so I really appreciate this feature. We also, of course, have a stopwatch, we have a countdown timer, we have 5 daily alarms, one of which is a snooze alarm, which means that the alarm will continue to sound every 5 minutes until you actually go in and change the mode of the watch. And of course, the module is protected by Casio's famous shock dampening technology. And the watch is also water resistant to 200 meters, which is about 650 feet. So there's plenty more details available in the review on watchreport.com, so go take a look, and thanks for watching.